My name is Sandy Beach, and I'm an alcoholic. How you all doing? I'm really happy that we did all this. I've been thinking about it, and I just feel very pleased. And I can't thank everybody enough for coming over and for lending support and for giving me some good comments and so on down. So that really makes me feel good, and I thank you all very much. As you know, we've been using stories to try and talk about our wonderful spiritual program. And we've come to the last step, which talks about a spiritual awakening, which is where we started. If you recall, on step one, I said we were going to sneak ahead to the end of the book and see how it ends, so that we would know what we were doing the whole time, which was to get to the jackpot, which is that spiritual awakening. And so now we finally come and have a step, having had this spiritual awakening. We try to carry this message to others and practice these principles in all our affairs. And it's been my experience that part of a spiritual experience is the irresistible desire to pass it on. I mean, you can just have 3 months and you are over there talking to somebody with 1 week. Let me tell you. And we don't know what we're going to tell them, but boy, we're excited. Because that's the contagious nature of spirituality. And we talk about it all the time. You have to give it away in order to keep it. Well, it's almost like we don't have to talk about it because it's part of the deal. When that happens, I used to see, it's not so much anymore, but I remember in the 70s when treatment centers were really big. And somebody would get 2 years, and it was inevitable. They'd start talking, and they'd go, well, how's it going? You know what I'm thinking? I'm thinking of becoming an alcohol counselor. And it was part of passing it on, this desire. And we'd go, well, hang with it for about 6 months. It'll probably go away. And it generally did. But I'm just sharing that enthusiasm and the exuberance that we have to share this is almost irresistible. And so that's why this is so much fun for me, is to just get up and try to pass on all the wonderful things that have happened to me to those of you that are just getting here. Now, to review the story, when we go back and take a look at our big book, now that we're operating on a frequency of awakening, we will find lots of sentences that talk about it, that we kind of slid by maybe when we were going through it. And I wrote down some of them. We may have been granted a glimpse of that ultimate reality, which is God's kingdom. That's quite a statement. It's a glimpse. That's what breaking through the ego is. That's what cleaning those slides off is. A glimpse. But a glimpse is enough to want us to get more and to see it more clearly and to have a better view. We found much of heaven, and we've been rocketed into the fourth dimension of existence. These are amazing sentences, you know what I'm saying? And they're just scattered throughout the big book, and I think one of them came from the 12 and 12. In the beginning of the big book, the central fact of our lives today is the absolute certainty that our Creator has entered our hearts and lives in a way that is indeed miraculous. The absolute certainty. So this is the difference between knowing about some higher power and experiencing it, where you go, wow, that's what they're talking about, and it just happened to me. And this is why AA is so successful and so much fun, is because that's what we're passing on, is how to have that happen to you. We found the great reality deep down within us. When we drew near to him, he disclosed himself to us. And we've entered the world of the Spirit out of the 10th step and then out of the very end of the big book. We feel we're walking hand in hand with the Spirit of the universe. Now, what a feeling that is. I'm walking hand in hand. I'm a little child. I got my hand in my Father's hand, and we're going to walk that way forever. It's the perfect picture, except for my ego, who says, yeah, this is great, but I look like a wimp. Look at everybody staring at me holding on to somebody's hand instead of handling all this on my own. And so there's the internal struggle. We're given the perfect deal, and we decide to improve on it. And that's what we mean when we take it back, and people during the week, they'll go, well, I decided to do today on my own. I've been to 4 meetings to recover from it, but I seem to be doing a little bit better. And so we see this circle, this cycle, that where we started and ended. And the steps really could be put in a circle, or they could put on a piano as piano keys. And then we play different steps to stay in harmony with the situation that we're encountering in that moment. But they become an integral part of us. And these are the new ways of relating to the world. And so, as we reviewed the story that we were talking about here, it probably looked something like this. That we use the analogy of we are a spiritual being having a human experience. Most people seem to like that. It describes kind of, okay, I see what's going on. You have this spiritual, and I'm here to have some kind of a human experience. Now, in order to do that, we have to be given a mind and awareness so that we can experience the human experience. And part of that awareness is the ability to think about other things other than what's going on, and we call that our ego. And so we are having a human experience, which was fully intended, but we're also editorializing on it as it happens and categorizing it as pretty bad. That was pretty bad what happened to me when I was 6. It just happened, but we filed it away as pretty bad, pretty bad. God never should have allowed that to happen. And we build a story. And we've talked a lot about this story, and that's where it starts. When we're probably about 3, the first time we say, mine. And then we just keep building it. Now, the more we build this story, and we're encouraged to do so because everybody else on the planet is doing that, and society is doing it, and they have their own story, so it's very rare that somebody can get out of this. That's why we talked about how lucky we are and what a small percentage of the people in the middle of their stories ever have a chance to break out. And so as the years go on, this story thickens, and it becomes a place that we can hide. In the beginning, it seemed like it was good protection. We could hide in our shell. Most of us became loners, and we felt safe in there. Yeah, there's all this stuff going on, but then I can go isolate and get inside where I think about things. Remember that. That's the important. You can't just go in there. You got to go in there and think about things. Man, the more I think about it, it's crappier than I thought. It's much worse than I thought yesterday. I'm going to think about it some more. There's more ramifications to this, and I'm building a thicker and thicker shell. Now, this shell becomes almost like a bird shell. And in order to survive and to not die in that shell, that little bird has to break out of there. And that has to be one heck of a struggle, especially if the shell is a little thicker than it should have been, or the bird's a little weaker. And so it starts. Now, most people never get a shot at this. They just assume this is all there is, and I'm going to make the best of existing in here with all of my ideas that are scaring the hell out of me. And I go to therapists, I go read books, I go everywhere, but I never get out of there. I can make it. It's like getting an interior decorator for your prison cell. You follow what I'm saying? This really looks nice. Looks a lot better than it did last week. But I'm still in it. You follow what I'm saying? It's still, I'm in there. And I know it. And I know that there's supposed to be something more than this. I also miss something. And what I miss is how it was before I built this prison to hide in. And so we've been talking about this in terms of slides, in other words, create a story. You can use any analogy, but that becomes the reality that we live in. And we make it so bad that the only way to live there is to drink. At least drinking makes it seem like it's better. But when we sober up, it's worse. It got even worse. So this is sort of like the human condition. And those of us that are lucky enough, those of us that are in the small, minute 10% of alcoholics who find AA, are given a chance to bust through that shell, to actually crack our own ego and see beyond it. Now, the ego's telling us there isn't anything beyond it. This is all there is. How often have we been told that? This is all there is. Stop talking about that. You're not in a shell. You're just screwed up. So get a therapist and get with it. But we come in here, and here's the amazing part. The people in here have done it. And they were exactly in the same place we were. They were alcoholic. And when we met them and they told us their stories, we cemented with that bond of identification that we talked about during primary purpose. We actually, that's what connected me to trying this. And I suddenly went, that guy got out. And he also knows what it feels like to be in here. That was amazing. The first time I heard somebody talk like he was reading my mind. He hid vodka in the toilet just like I did. I couldn't believe it. And then the stories he made up, they were the stories I made up. It was almost like, did my sponsor brief this guy ahead of time to give a talk like that so that I would see? And we've all had that happen, where we suddenly identify and realize we're in the right place, and therefore we're going to try something that looks absolutely weird. When we look at these 12 steps from an intellectual perspective, it looks like hogwash. I mean, it just looks like, what are you talking about? Because we're trying to reason with them. We're trying to make sense out of them intellectually. We're trying to understand the steps. And we aren't in that world. We're moving to the world of the spirit that the 10th step talked about, and we don't use the same language. So the trick to the steps is to do them on faith. So a lot of us call it taking action in something we don't believe in. I didn't believe in them, but I knew if I didn't do them, my sponsor might hurt me. And so that's my story. I just went, Another thing is peer pressure. Well, everybody else is doing it. I'm going to look bad. Even the ego tricks itself. I'm going to look bad if I don't do them, so now we're doing something to get the ego, and he doesn't even realize it. But for whatever reason, we suddenly find the magic word comes into our vocabulary, and it's called willing. I become willing. Willing means to set aside my judgment in favor of someone I chose, my sponsor, or the group, or the collective wisdom of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I allow that to be superior to my intellect and my deciding how my life should go. That is a huge step. And this is the place where it happens. So you can see how lucky we are to hit bottom. Now, hitting bottom is the beginning of the effort to get out. That is what motivates us. Everyone's story is different, but that is the point at which the journey down stops. That's the bottom floor. And now we're going to go the other way, not by our own knowledge or our own resources, but by the power of the program, our sponsors, and our newfound higher power. And we begin the process of breaking out. I love to think of the 12 steps as the process of breaking out. Okay, gang, we're planning a breakout tonight. Let's meet in an anonymous meeting, not use our names, and we'll plan the breakout. It's like we're sneaking up on our egos and diverting them with diversionary tactics, and we're going to break out. Because once you do break out a little bit, and we get a taste of that light, it becomes irresistible. We just want more. And so this is where we start. When I was, about a couple years ago, I was thinking about the jokes and how I trick myself and how everybody does. This is really, they call life a game, they call it an illusion, a play. We talked about the play where the actor's on the stage, and pretty soon the real play is going on in his head and has nothing to do with the one that he had the lines from. And so here's a crazy little poem that makes me laugh at myself. And it goes like this. Where shall I hide, I said, where I will never find me? I know, I'll pretend that I'm not me, nor you, nor he. I'll hide in a story and pretend that it's real. Oh boy, what a joke on me. And I love that last line. Oh boy, what a joke on me. And it's amazing as we abandon old ideas. I don't know about you all, but when I look at some of the stuff I got rid of, I go, I can't believe that was my philosophy. I can't believe this was my way of living. Me, nice, smart guy, this is crap. You know what I mean? This is crap. And I was proud of it. Oh well. So, we come to see how everything goes around, how there's two sides to the same thing, and we start realizing we're going to be happy, then we're going to be sad. And then we're going to be happy, and then we're going to be sad. Everything is very cyclical, because if there wasn't the both of them, neither one could exist. There can't be sadness without happiness, because it can't exist not in relation to something. I think that's where Einstein was talking about relativity. If in order to be down, there has to be an up. In order to be black, there has to be a white. There can't just be white, because it wouldn't be in relation to anything, and we wouldn't call it anything. And so that's why we have all these things, life and death. birth and death, war and peace, up and down, in and out. All these cyclical. When I breathe, I'm actually giving birth to a breath on the way in and saying goodbye to it on the way out. Very short lifespan. Birth, death. You know, I go like this. Hey, how you doing? Come on in. Hey, I need some oxygen. Don't worry, I'll take care of it. Oh, leaving already? Yeah, I am. Well, thanks for your help. You're taking the carbon dioxide out. Yes, I am. Okay. Hey, hi, welcome. Come on in. Oh, you're going to be going around inside. Oh, sorry, you got to go. Oh, hi, come on in. Now, you may not do that when you're breathing, but you're not as crazy as I am, so. And so when we see it that way, birth, death, it's what? It's hardly a big deal. As soon as one ends, the other one starts. As soon as one ends, the other one starts. So we can't make a big deal out of anything. It's just the way it is. It's very cyclical. Some of the other, and I was thinking about it because they're part of us, kind of like the war and peace, perfection and imperfection. We're all perfectionists. You remember that? Well, we ought to be doing it perfectly. You're not doing it right. You're too vague. You're over here. It's too wishy-washy. You hear it in here when we say, you got to get back to the basics. You ever hear that? You got to get back to the basics. The meetings are getting too watered down. Watered down and basic. You got to get back there. And you know, we were talking about that in the history of the tension between Akron and New York. We're using those as just because that's how we are. We have the same tension inside of us, so it's a wonderful way of looking at it. And we had the Bible versus the anything goes. I mean, if you want to carry it to that extreme. And so we look at it and we go, well, that's right. We got to go back to where everything's black and white. And there's that part of us that wants that rigidity, the conservative. I want everything to be in order. But then you have no fun. So I want to get out and mess around for a while. So then I go over here and I go, no, this is more like it. This is more like it. But as soon as I get through, this side of me goes, you should be ashamed of yourself. What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? So then I got a club and I go, can I have a little bit of fun? Okay, go ahead. Sorry, I was only kidding. Bang, bang, bang. And we just have to accept this and that, the yin and the yang. So we have the extreme moralism and the liberalism. And we could phrase it this way. Do you want to follow a co-founder who was faithful to his wife, or? And so then you go, oh yeah, you see, it's that simple. It's black and white. Well, if we did that, we wouldn't have any writings. Maybe one short letter. So it looks like we're going to have to settle for following imperfect people. And you're going to find that your sponsor's imperfect. And you're going to find your home group is imperfect. We're going to make stupid mistakes. Oh, here comes the treasurer. What's the problem? Oh, I ran off with the money. All right, come on. We'll set up a payment plan and welcome back. I don't know what got into me. I don't know what happened. And what we want to do is not go, well, you ought to be ashamed of yourself. Say, you know, I could have done that. That's what we want to say. I could have done that. I could have been in that spot. They left me with all the money. Who knows? So then we see that in the whole nature of things, where it goes this way and then it goes that way. And the greatest cyclical thing that I like to talk about is where you and I are now. What happened in this wonderful AA journey. As you know, we hit a bottom, and now we're going the other way. And every year, we see things more brightly. And it's just wonderful to see that. So it really was something that has a beginning and has an end, and then has another beginning and then has another end. So to use a story, I'm going to steal two stories and make them into one. And these two stories have been around since the beginning. So I'm going to call the story The Prodigal Adam. And it seems that Adam was in his father's kingdom, which was perfect. And he just loved it. And his father loved him. And he said, this is your deal. This is it. Enjoy it for the rest of your life. And you'll be as happy as can be. But his father was pretty smart. And he had a little device that he could use to tell if people in the kingdom really appreciated it. Really were grateful for everything that was there. And the little device was an apple. And he just said, the whole deal is yours, just don't eat the freaking apple over there, okay? It's just an apple, you don't even touch it, okay? And as it turns out, the vast majority of the people found that yes, it was fun, but why can't we have the apple? We have all of these wonderful things. Did any of you ever focus on the negative only? You have a wonderful life and you just sit around, one little thing, and we just focus on it, and I'm sure the people in that kingdom thought a lot about that apple. And finally they said, I don't want to live here anymore. I'm getting out of here. I'm taking the apple. And I'm going to go create my own world where it'll be a lot fairer. I can do better than this. I'm not going to have a damn thing like this, loose end. So off we go. The prodigal sons and daughters are on their own doing better than that. I can improve on that kingdom. I know I can. And we hear these stories every night at speaker meetings. My name is Mary, I'm an alcoholic, and I had a nice little house, and my parents were pretty nice, and then I decided that the reason I'm so unhappy was because they were so nice. How about that? It's always got to be their fault. They were too poor, they were too rich. I was so rich I was alone all the time. Oh, wow, that's so bad. I feel so sorry for you. And so we start our story. And they're all the same except for the details. One person's puking in a boat and another one's puking in an oxygen mask. And one person is robbing this and the next person is stealing that. But what is it? It's all leading to a bad ending. And along the way, we know it is. We could see it coming. And we know if I keep doing the same thing, I'm going to keep getting the same results. What do? Tonight it'll be different. I'll just have 2 beers, maybe a hamburger, play 1 game of pool, and go home to my family. All right, so what happens? So now when he gets bailed out of jail, then... And he has all the whole family's there, and they're lecturing and everything. He's going, I know. It's crazy. I promise. That won't be happening anymore. And then he tells himself, I'm going to have just 1 beer and a ham sandwich. And then I'll come home to my family. And then he's back in jail. And no matter what we come up with, we go down and down and down. And eventually we see the 4 horsemen, and worse. And finally we get to what we call the bottom. And if we're lucky, there's a hand of somebody else who just was there. And they take it, and they start leading us out of the trap. And we come back, and it's a very long journey. But it gets happier and brighter and more useful and more rewarding. And finally, at the end of the line, we make it back to the kingdom. And they are so happy to see us. Hey, how was it? Oh, bad. I had no idea how wonderful this place was. Oh my God. I'm just taking it all. I can't believe that I left here. I know one thing, I'm 100 times happier than I was before. It's just amazing. That trip itself made this 20 times better. I'm looking at the colors. I'm looking at indigo. I've never seen it that bright. Wow, this is amazing. And the guy said, yeah, well, we've noticed that everybody who goes down to earth, when they come back, they're 20 times happier than they were. Really? Yeah. That's why there's that 6-mile line over there trying to get back to earth. No kidding. Yeah. Yeah, it really does that. By the way, they changed from apple to banana, just so you know. How'd that happen? The Apple lobby. They came in and played all their cards, said, why are we picked on for 1 billion years? How about somebody else? So they finally saw, well, isn't that the damnedest thing you ever think of? God, that's just amazing. And so he starts to settle in, and he starts to just appreciate the fact that from his old place where he loved to sit, he can see 5 galaxies. He can feel God's energy just surrounding him. And he's experiencing a peace that was beyond his wildest dreams. And he just sat there in awe and ecstasy that something this wonderful could happen to him. And he just sat contemplating it. He just sat breathing in and out. And he said to himself, I now know what they were talking about when they said, it can't get any better than this. This is it. And then he thinks, bananas? Why would they switch from apples to bananas? I don't like apples anymore if I can't eat them with my dentures. Bananas are perfect. Why would they pick that? Why would they do that to me? And then we learn out of all of this that that's not as good as it gets. It's about to get 20 times better. And we start another journey and another cycle. That's my story. I'm sticking to it. It captures the nature of life for me. And when we understand that it's going to be that way, I'm going to feel real healthy, now I'm sick. Now I'm happy, now I'm sad. Now everybody's behaving themselves, now they're going nuts. You follow what I'm saying? And then we just go, yes, that's what I'm part of. I am part of this particular universe. And so, I think I'm getting near the end. when we read the 12 and 12, which we study over here, on the last page, I think it's 125 in the 12 and 12, the last paragraph starts, and whenever I hear it, I have a little sadness. It says, "These little studies of our 12 steps are now coming to a close." And I just can see Bill writing that. And I think it probably made him feel real good. These little studies, which is what the whole book was, just these little studies of our 12 steps are now coming to a close. And what do we do here when they come to a close? We start all over again with Rob. You follow what I'm saying? It comes to a close and it starts again. And then we have step 1. And then we have step 2. And we experience the wonderful spiritual journey of our 12 steps over and over and over again. And we experience it over and over again every time we sponsor somebody. And we watch Hopeless Wreck, Hopeful Halfway There, very useful AA members sponsoring 3 people, making the coffee, attending the intergroup functions. And we go, wow. And then knock, knock, "Hi, I'm brand new." "Oh, you're a mess. I don't even think God can help you." And then he does, and I go, "God, no way did I ever think he could have possibly made it. That's beyond my wildest dreams. I can't believe that guy. He's sitting over there. He's totally responsible." Absolutely incredible. And so our stories are coming to a close. And it's just been delightful. But I'm leaving a loose end that I haven't talked about. And this is just my take on it. We punctured the shell, and we could see the light, and we're entering something that we really don't understand, which is God and the universe. And so, how do we communicate and relate to this discovery? Now, we know that our thinking does nothing but screw things up. So thinking would be the worst possible way to do this. And so what's left? Well, I'll tell you something that I came across about a year ago in a history book. When Bill was getting near his old age, he'd been around a long, long time, probably 34 years or so. He wrote a letter to a friend, and he was reflecting in the letter on how he saw AA at that time. And this is what he called AA. He said that it was, wait a minute, I got to look it up, an utter simplicity which encases a complete mystery. In our 12 steps, there isn't anything more simple than those steps. It is a very simple program. And Dr. Bob said, keep it simple. And we take these very simple actions. The ego gets cracked, and we behold a complete mystery. And that is what we are now trying to relate to. And so when I was thinking about it, I thought about, what if I was a composer of music, maybe symphony music, and I wrote a symphony, and I wanted to know how you all felt about my symphony. Now, one way would be to wait for the end of the performance and see if everybody stood up and you got a standing ovation. But standing ovations are getting to be pretty perfunctory. At the end of everything, we stand up and applaud. We may not mean it, but we stand up and applaud. So that's not a very good. Something that might be better would be to be behind the curtain and have binoculars so that you could look at the faces while the music was being played. And I think you would get all the information you would need by just watching sadness, wonder, total rapture, totally lost in the music, totally consumed by the precise moment. Now that would be quite a message if you were the composer. Wouldn't that make the composer really happier than anything you could ever say? Could you top that with any kind of words? You couldn't. So maybe as we step into this, we have to fully accept it's a complete mystery. And we have to become mystery beholders instead of mystery sleuths. There's nothing to figure out. It is beyond figuring out. You simply don't know. And so we get happy with not knowing. There's nothing to know. There's just a show to behold. That's what's there. And I think we mentioned it earlier that the first question we're going to get when we get over back into the magic place, wherever it is, did you enjoy the show? I absolutely told you to insist on enjoying life, to display enjoyment. And so if I want a wonderful life and a wonderful universe and a wonderful God, maybe I should just look at the definition of that word, full of wonder. Full of wonder. It's that simple. There's nothing left to do but that. Isn't that amazing? Now, there was a great hero of mine who passed away, I don't know, about 20 years ago. Everybody knows him. He's our dear brother, Louis Armstrong. And when I think of Louis Armstrong, this is what I think of, are these words. I see trees of green, red roses too. I see them bloom from me and you. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. I see skies of blue, clouds of white, bright blessed days, dark sacred nights. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. The colors of the rainbow, so pretty in the sky, are also on the faces of people passing by. I see friends shaking hands, saying, how do you do? They're really saying, I love you. I hear babies crying. I watch them grow. They'll learn much more than I'll ever know. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Yeah. I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Thank you all and good night.
You get that?